Everybody, today we're going to be checking out the iFi Audio ZenStream. So you guys will also know, besides the streamer, of course, I also wanted to say that this is going to be my first ever video that's being scripted. I didn't know I was a script writer, but anyway, I wanted to do it to make my videos more structured, more streamlined. I also thought it might help to coalesce things, be more concise, to the point, instead of kind of rambling and meandering like I have a tendency to do. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy. Now, for a long time in my videos, I've talked about using a Raspberry Pi 4, mostly with Rupee. I've also tried Volumio, but primarily using it as a Roon bridge. I've tried some other software, like I said, besides Rupee, but it's my preferred method, especially when using Roon. I've tried different audio hats as well, the Allo Digi 1 hat and some others. And then about a year ago, I decided to get a Bluesound Node, the latest model. And I picked one up kind of as an upgrade, but I'll talk about that in sound quality. I eventually ended up getting rid of it and just staying with the Raspberry Pi. And then, of course, iFi Audio got in touch with me again after a while and said, hey, do you want to check out any products? And I said, well, hey, the ZenStream sounds like a neat thing, even though it's been reviewed to death. Now, I won't wax poetic about the Raspberry Pi 4 as a streamer. I will say, if you want to really get a good breakdown of what it is and what it's capable of, I'm going to link down below John Darko's videos on the subject. He does a much better job than I probably ever would or could in terms of explaining everything about the video or the Raspberry Pi and the way that you want to use that and how the software works. So anyway, of course, starting out, obviously build quality. Now, iFi Audio overall is really good in terms of build quality. They're one of the companies I think about in terms of just consistency of build quality. Every time I get something from them, it just functions like it's supposed to. I don't unbox it and think, oh God, hopefully it's going to work. You know, everything just functions perfectly, and which is great. Again, outer build quality overall, metal casework on the Zen series. The Zen Air series is plastic outer case, but still equally pretty good. But this is definitely superior. You feel like you could throw it and it would survive the trip. But yeah, build quality, pretty nice. Start off with connectivity. You know, where I place this, I primarily used the Wi-Fi. And of course, I did try out the Ethernet. I did use the Ethernet a bit. I didn't really notice a huge sonic difference. In case anybody's wondering, sometimes people will say, well, Ethernet sounds better than Wi-Fi. I didn't really notice a huge difference. Ethernet was definitely more stable. I didn't really have too many dropouts or any sort of disconnection problems using Wi-Fi. However, I did have some scenarios where, and I primarily use this as a Roon, in the Roon mode, which I'll get to in a minute. I primarily use it in the Roon mode, and I noticed with the Wi-Fi, every time I would fire up Roon on my phone, you know, controlling it from my Roon core, it just would function perfectly every time, no issues of any kind. However, using the Wi-Fi, I noticed occasionally there would be like almost like this warm-up period. It seems like it would take, you know, a song or two for it to, you know, there'd be like lagging and dropout in terms of the audio with the Wi-Fi. I'm not sure what that is. It could be my network. I don't know. But I know, again, with the Ethernet, I didn't experience that. But sonically, I didn't notice a huge difference in terms of the connectivity. Now, in terms of the software aspect of it, of course, there are a myriad of options, a whole veritable cornucopia of possibility to use this thing. I used it primarily with a service called Roon and used it in the Roon mode. And now, functioned well. I have Tidal and Qobuz and my local music all tied into Roon, so I can just go onto Roon and listen to all of my music in my library, and that would of course just go straight to here, to my DAC, to my amplifier. Of course, I also tried out the all-in-one, which is what they call the AIO, the all-in-one, and I have that actually set in there now because I was using Spotify. But in any case, I didn't really notice a huge difference between them. Stability-wise, believe it or not, the all-in-one actually seemed to be a bit more stable than the Roon, in the Roon mode, for me in my environment. And like I said, I think I'm going to chalk that up to using the Wi-Fi. I also use my laptop as my Roon core, and it's sort of a budget laptop, and generally it seems to be pretty stable running Roon in spite of it being a budget laptop, but still it has kind of slowed a little bit. So I'm going to chalk that up to being, you know, kind of my computer and just my general environment, not the streamer itself. But yeah, overall, stability of software was pretty good. The iFi Stream app, I'm not going to get into a whole lot. I did use it. It's basically Volumio, but it's restricted Volumio. It does allow you to configure this and go into settings and things like that. And when you get it, especially if you're using the Wi-Fi, you want to initially set it up using the iFi or the ZenStream app, excuse me. And that's fine, and it works pretty well. I didn't have any connectivity issues. I did read online where some people talked about having Wi-Fi issues in terms of setting it up using Wi-Fi. I didn't really have any issues. I have good Wi-Fi in my house, more or less. But yeah, stability of the software is pretty good. Like I said, it's basically a limited version of Volumio, which isn't bad, but you do run into this scenario where I wish it was just Volumio. And it's one of the few criticisms I have of the ZenStream. Why can't it just be Volumio? You know, with Volumio, you can link Tidal, you can link Qobuz, you can link all kinds of different music services to Volumio, and then there you go. Well, why couldn't we just do that with the ZenStream app? I mean, you're paying, what, $400 for this thing? Couldn't you guys give us a more fully featured app? The way it sits, you can only do local music, like for example, that's plugged into the USB in the back, or that's on like a NAS, like a network attached storage, that sort of thing. And of course, internet radio, which is fine. I enjoy internet radio, but you know. I also wanted to quick mention that for my testing, I primarily used the USB audio out. Currently, I was kind of in between DACs. I know that sounds kind of weird. I had a Modius and I was using the coax. I then got rid of the Modius. I needed some money, so I sold it. And I went back to using my Zenair DAC, which is USB only, so I used that. Now, other than the qualitative differences between the two DACs, I didn't notice a huge sonic difference between the USB and the coax. I think, you know, online people can talk about there being a sonic difference, and perhaps they heard it. I didn't really hear a big difference between the two. And of course, that leads us on to sound quality. Now, the first thing that strikes me, the ZenStream, is, you know, and I hate to sound kind of hokey, but it has a really good flow with the music, kind of fitting with a lot of other iFi audio products. It really displays the truth of what you're listening to. It doesn't hide it or cover it up. You know, like I said, there's a real sense of balance to the sound as well, and coherence that kind of makes you feel like it's a real hi-fi sound, if you understand what I mean, but without being like clinical or any of that kind of nonsense. Now, comparison to the Bluesound, and it's the reason I got rid of the Bluesound, but the ZenStream really opens up the music and allows you to hear it for what it is, as opposed to the Bluesound, in my opinion, really had a tendency to homogenize the sound. It made everything very easy listening and kind of created this sort of, I don't know, you know, sort of middle ground on everything. You know, bad stuff sounded great on the Bluesound, but it didn't make good stuff sound even better. And that's the real differentiator here, is this really allows, you play a bad recording, well, it doesn't sound all that great, but you play a great recording and it makes it sound even better. It's real indicative, real characterful of the displaying of the quality of music that you're listening to, which is a really good indicator of a quality product, in my opinion. Like I said, the Bluesound has a tendency to kind of smooth over a lot of stuff. Like I said, I like the word homogenize. It homogenizes tone, texture, clarity, the color of music. It really does that quite a bit. And then this, of course, let me put this forward here. There we go. And this, of course, doesn't in any way do that at all. It is a fantastic in that sense. Now, compared with the Raspberry Pi 4, this is where it gets interesting. However, the sonic distinction that I can make between the two, and we're talking with the USB out on both. We're talking a Raspberry Pi 4 using its USB out. Okay, we're not talking about the Allo Digi1 signature where it's got the middle board and then the board on top and all of that stuff, and the I squared S separator and all. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about USB audio. What I noticed between the two more than anything is more depth with here. I also noticed more clarity with here, more definition of sonic imagery, better here than I do with the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi 4, it does a lot of the stuff I talked about versus the Bluesound, but it kind of also creates this flat plane of sound. And it's not really homogenized, but you don't really get any, it's like looking at a 2D image. You can see all the color, but it doesn't really 3D it. And this, of course, that's the big differentiator here, in my opinion. I want to start a new thing on my videos, and I want to do it on a rating system, so like a 1 to 5. 1 being like, God, man, this is garbage. I can't believe they would even put this out. Like, you know, what did they even do? How did they even manage to release this to the public? 5, of course, is stellar. It's phenomenal. It's top class. It's really fantastic. It just goes above and beyond. It's more than you could expect for the price for what it is. And when it comes to this, I'm going to have to give it a 5. I really am. Like I said, it takes a familiar package, kind of in a lot of ways with like what a Raspberry Pi is, but it makes it its own, and it also simplifies it as well. You don't have to think about, oh, well, which Raspberry Pi should I get? Oh, should I get the 4 gig or the 8 gig? Oh, what kind of SD card should I get? Oh, God, what am I going to need? Oh, no, should I get a DAC hat? Should I get a linear power supply? It forgoes all of that. And because it doesn't need any of it. And it just simplifies the whole process. And it's also cheaper than a Bluesound. You know, I think it delves better sonics for cheaper money. So it's basically a win-win. And in that respect, I can't help but think of it as 5/5, or 5 out of 5. Stellar product. Anyway, that's it for now. Stay tuned for the next video, and peace out.